welcome to WIFPIC's World PICU Awareness Week 2026 podcast series. I am Lorena Acevedo, pediatric intensivist and clinical epidemiologist of Fundación Cardioinfantil and Clínica del Country in Bogota, Colombia. It is truly a privilege to be joined today by three outstanding Latin American colleagues. Let me introduce our speakers for today. First, Dr. Luis Moya.
Hi, Lorena. Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Luis Moya, pediatric intensivist of Hospital General San Juan de Dios in Guatemala City.
Here are also joined by Teresa Stegman.
Hi, Lore, and hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Stegman. I'm one of the nurse practitioners, and I come from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
And finally, we are pleased to have with us Daniel Sandoval.
Hi, Lorena. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Sandoval, and I'm a physical therapist at Fundación Valle de Lili in Cali, Colombia.
This is the time of the year when we recognize the incredible work carried out of pediatric intensivist care units all around the world. This year, our campaign focused on a crucial theme: take care of those who care. The goal is to highlight the importance of the caregiver's well-being as a fundamental pillar of the safe, ethical, and sustainable pediatric critical care. PICU professionals face intensive emotional, ethical, and clinical demands every day. Supporting the people who provide this care is essentially not only for their well-being, but also for the quality and the safety of the care delivery to children and their families. In this episode, we will create and explore how teams across our region, Latin America, are addressing caregivers' well-being, sharing our experiences, challenges, and ideas that can help build healthier and more supportive critical care environments. Today, we are focused on the incredible work done across Latin America, a region defined by diversity, resilience, and a deep commitment to caring for critical ill children, often in the context of limited resources and high clinical demands. To start this conversation, I would like to begin with an experience that truthfully reflects how caring for caregivers can be integrated into clinical care models. Daniel, your team has developed an innovative approach through the CRECEP program. Could you please briefly tell us what motivated this creation of the program within a pediatric intensive care unit?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lorena. It's a pleasure to me to be here. So, first of all, CRECEP was born from a reality we have to face every single day in the pediatric intensive care unit. On one hand, of course, we have achieved significant advances in patient survival. However, we saw and we noticed that the experience of the children, their families, and even healthcare team was often fragmented, a little bit like specialized, and also a little bit like emotionally demanding. So by that time, we came out with the idea or with a thought of a question, and it was, is it survival enough? So CRECEP was creative as a response to that question. But we also understood that worldwide care model was like developing, and they were like integrating families aiming to reduce morbidity and also recognizing the importance of healthcare team and of course the well-being. So something that happened in the it became a little bit more evident in the COVID-19 pandemic.
Daniel, that perspective is incredibly powerful, especially the idea that survival alone is not enough. But to better understand this model, can you please tell us what the name CRECEP represents?
Of course, the name represents six fundamental pillars. First of all, the C goes for Child Life Services. The R stands for Early Rehabilitation. The E goes for Affective Listening, and the C, Caring for the Caregiver. The E goes for School Continuity, and the P goes for Post ICD Outcomes, especially fix. But the CRECEP acronym is a comprehensive model that of cares that is beyond of that. We only care about the holistic proportional thing. It's that it goes around physical, emotional, cognitive, and social alongside families and the care of the team.
Daniel, this holistic vision is truly inspiring. Within these pillars, one stands out is particularly relevant for today's theme, caring for the caregiver. Why did you decide to include this as a pillar, as a fundamental component of your model?
Because we came to understand something essential. It is impossible to provide humanized care if the healthcare team is emotionally exhausted. And this is very, very important because in the first place, pediatric intensive care units professionals are constantly exposed to suffering, uncertainty, and deeply complex decisions. And this has like a cumulative impact in your life. But at the same time, each healthcare provider has a personal life with their own challenges and emotional fluctuation. And yet, every day, we are exposed or we are expected to show up and offer and offer our best version of children. And this is why it comes a little thin line between what we give and where we give it from. That's why it's very important to the caregiver, for the caregiver is well, and also care improves. Today, uh, it's important to point out that multiple studies show that burnout rates is a little bit higher than before. And this is not only affect professional, but also affects the quality of care and communication with families and even patient safety. And at the end of the day, with the outcomes. That's why it's very important to us to include the caring for the caregiver of people that nosotros. We began to understand that the emotional state of the team is not an individual issue, but a clinical variable that is directly impact on outcomes.
Daniel, what you have shared highlights something essential, that caregivers' well being is not a personal matter, but a structural and a clinical priority. Building this idea, I would like now to bring in Teresa to hear how this is being translated into concrete and strategies at an institutional level. Teresa, in the experience, what strategies do your center use to take care of emotional and physical well-being?
Thank you, Lore. Having support from the institutional level is very, very important and vital for the well-being of our team. At our institution, we use different strategies to decompress after labor-intensive weeks or having particularly challenging cases.
Can you please tell us about those strategies?
Yes, of course. We have a program called Care for Colleagues that is typically scheduled on a monthly basis for our cardiac ICU, but we can also contact the Wellness Center to arrange a session whenever our unit feels the need. These sessions are open to the entire multidisciplinary team, and if there is a particularly challenging case that the team feels that they need to debrief or process or even talk about, through more in-depth small group sessions, we can also arrange that to happen.
Tere, that is great. And it's also important to move from the awareness to the action. Could you please tell us a bit more about these strategies? Who lead these sessions?
Yeah, so across our hospital, we have different staff members from different units help lead these sessions. The team is really multidisciplinary and it involves nurses, physicians, physical therapists, nutritionists, and other members that want to be involved in leading the sessions. To do so, these members have to undergo training, which includes a coaching session on how to facilitate and debrief the sessions. After their initial training, the participant must attend and observe 2 Care for Colleagues sessions before they're even able to facilitate a sessions themselves. And once you become a facilitator, what we ask for is that you don't lead sessions within your own unit so that you can remain objective and unbiased when you do so.
Oh, great. This multidisciplinary involvement is truly remarkable and speak to a shared responsibility across the team. What will you say that is the main goal of these sessions?
That's a good question. I think the main goal is to create a space that feels safe for the team to share lived experiences. The coach is the one that provides questions to guide conversations, but does not impose judgment or um, anything during these discussions. They act as a guide so they can sort of debrief on the experiences that the team is feeling, emotions and feelings. And their main role is to validate those experiences and emotions and summarize the key points that emerge during these discussions to help the team process their experiences, their feelings, and feel supported and recognized. Um, the main goal is for the team to not feel like they're alone in these experiences and that there is a space and a community ready to support one another.
We have explored the how care models and institutional strategies can support caregivers' well-being. But there is another key dimension: how we can prepare and support teams from the very beginning. Now, Dr. Luis Moya is going to give us her perspective of how education, simulation, and spiritual support helps strengthen the well-being in the health care professionals in pediatric critical care. Dr. Luis, about the caregiver well-being in patient safety, how is the perspective of the education and training of the welfare staff in Guatemala City?
Hi, thank you, Lauren, for this question. It's for me a great opportunity to be here. For us, it's a policy in our PICU as a great time of this podcast is the awareness of PICUs, with PICs. Take care of those who care. For us, it's important the physiological, psychological safety begins with the basic assumption. We believe that everyone participating in activities in our PICU is intelligent, capable, cares about doing their best, and wants to improve. Released from the Center of Medical Simulation in Boston. First, it's important to realize that the physiological and emotional health of PICU professionals directly influence in clinical judgment, communication, teamwork in the pediatric intensive care. The PICU is a place that we need to promote quality, ethics, and learning without risks of safety. This is a name of simulation, and this is the methodology that we can improve the skills, knowledge, and attitudes in the staff, like training a sniper in the halo conditions, high accuracy, low opportunity. The reskilling process is very common in PICU. It was during the COVID-19 outbreak that several staff are not capable to be part of the PICU and was trained to be part in the care of the patients in several outbreak facilities widespread in the world. It was a case that I emphasize as a reality in Latin America, where sometimes it's common promotes the doctor-centered knowledge and the decision making. What we need more in the rural places, democratic the decision making and the skills to time to dependent and performance. I promote the recruitment to the PICU with the quote, "We don't need more experts, we need competent staff." Because it's common some fear in case they believe the high demand expectation to great amount of knowledge before PICU. Instead, promote the curve of learning from novice to experts in the safe environment. Only having better recruitment, we can have better nurse patient and better doctor-patient ratio, because the workload always strains the work conditions and promotes fatigue and task load, very hiking moral distress. Burnout is a system issue, not an individual failure, but more a diagnosis or defined definition. Is important to recognize the trends and the several times that the staff reaches very near of the no-return point to burnout. It's not a criteria of medical condition. Will have a repetitive cycle and reduces the social connection and acceptance, recognition, and competence and respect of the esteem and the realizing one's full potential of the self-actualization as the Maslow hierarchy of needs. The workforce strain, staffing models, shift and numbers, labor week hours, circadian cycle, moral distress, organizational culture play a central role in burnout. Learning simulation cycle is important in psychological safety and promotes confidence and avoid the pimping in the rounds of the work. In our case, we need use the 10,000 hours of deliberate practice model to use an activity as opportunity of learning. With this condition, we create a confidence and safety and confidence model. As a contract, we are learning enhancedly because the learner can avoid the fear, anxiety, and blame to be guilty in case of pitfall. In our PQ, we promote a confidence contract, signed first by me, where it happened in any mistake and any student recognized to report any adverse event is my responsibility to not give an administered sanction. Education is based in relationship. We strongly believe that the top level of the performance is leadership, but NASA makes important that the same level of the followership as the leadership. It's important promotes and enhance the empowerment in order to make more peers and democratic decision making in the PQ.
Dr. Luis, how do you move through education and simulation to the well-being in the staff of the PICU?
Education is based in following mentors and leaders and is based in their roles. Ancestry, everyone believes that you can learn with the Sodoto methodology, see one, do one, and teach one, based in the supervised learning and is not safe to the patient. Commonly, we learn with premium non nocere, understanding that it's a protective statement, but it's not a resolution, and moving to action. When we are talking about child mortality, we need to try to do the best model in demanding environment for parents and families. Reviewing the spectrum and observing child mortality, we conclude that fears do not harm is not enough. Make the legs artist as fast as fast you can. Fears, doing no harm becomes a art of law and the first speed. Commonly is not only recognized errare humanum est, to err is human, in a partial and incomplete sense. The phrase errare humanum est, perseverare diabolicum, translates the to err is human, but to persist is the error is diabolical. It's a complete quote, makes sense of the individual failure without feed forwarding, could be considered evil because never lack of feedback. We wrote some papers instead to promote for patient safety. Meliorare humanum est, supra collaboratum maxime momenti. Improve is human, better working as a team. Since the beginning of the PULSE courses and the simulation center in Guatemala, we start with the recognition of the 4H and 4T as the base of cardiac arrest. But after that, we need to addition the humanization of team work, requiring normalizing the round in the stress and moral distress. This is the condition that we add the fifth H and the fifth T.
Thank you, Luis. And also now we want to know about what do you have, if you have any program or initiative to improve humanization and teamwork in your PQ related to emotional support.
We understand the caring of caregivers sustaining the future of the PQ. As described previously, the leadership is a very important competence. It's the top level of performance. But the main condition that we need to learn is the empathy. We can learn from the integrity and the empathy from our mentors and supposedly from our leaders to be heading the PQ. But it's necessary to have specific objectives, to deep discussion, and be capable to show to the residents the opportunity to recognize mistakes, ask for help, talk about unforeseeable conditions, and be self-critical. Open to other critics and understand the value of the teamwork as an integrative model, not only in the crew resource method, is to this, like the sports team, have the courage to support to other players in the track, field, or court. There are several scenarios for the objective to teach about empathy. But if you like the explicit application of the competence, you need to walk through to the pathways it takes. Hard conditions and the situations where sometimes the loneliness is common in the shifts. When I speak in the academic field, I say empathy. When I refer to emotional, to spiritual, non-religious support, I refer to mercy. Several papers or organizations refer to the moral distress. It's harder than the academic or technological problems. is more than the systems of the people of the lack of confidence in colleagues or authorities in the hierarchy, where sometimes the problems are more related with the confidence on the communication. In this condition, based on the role of chaplain as the same of the firemen, soldiers, police squad, or supporting prisons or hospitals, or any other area, we recognize the chaplain is part of the staff and have connection with the spiritually of them in the fragile conditions of their families. We are working without confidence and trusting their colleagues, where the staff need to improve the commitment and hope. The chaplain in the battlefield is the support to avoid dying alone. We're promoting the meditation to the support of the parents, but it's emotional demanding for the staff. We need to show to the staff more empathy and mercy, but because we need to be very close to them in case of the chaplain be available and open to as a volunteer figure instead a colleague or part of the staff. The figure of the chaplain is voluntary, but have the strong commitment of the confidence, their support be more pragmatical and resolutive, and that not is a substitution for the professional psychological support. In several universities demonstrated the chaplain can reduce even the number of suicides in the staff, and it's important to reduce the self-destructive behaviors like drug consumption or severe depression. Hospital chaplain, in our case, PICU chaplain, help to be staff to have more resilience, promote confidence, and use tools to respect and live in coherence in their own spiritual values without the figure of the sin or punishment, what increases the suffering in the life-threatening condition. We like to connect with the spiritual view of the mission, vision, passion, profession, and vocation of the person, alienated with the purpose of own life in the personal and academic focus. And there is the topics like a framework to restore the values and commitment in diverse situations, and remember any situation and any day the purpose of their very valuable life in the service of the PICU patients. Anytime that we start a long night or weekend shift, sometimes we can prefer stay at home or not be on call in the hospital. We can pray to the Lord reduces all the number of sick patients of the PICU or the emergency room. We don't like car accidents or sickness, but instead we can be grateful and ready to the opportunity to be the best available option to serve a kid and their family with the parable of the Good Samaritan attitude that is told by Jesus in the Gospel of Luke.
Daniel, how can a program like CRECEP transform the current reality of the healthcare professionals in a daily clinical practice?
Doctora Lorena, that's an awesome question because CRECEP proposes a very important shift in perspective. Traditionally, in the past, there has been like a strong focus on individual resilience, but we can not only depend on individual capacity to adapt. It has to be a system responsibility. That's why we need to day by day means building a culture where professionals can speak about what they feel, process their experiences, and find support within the team. That we can make that about making strategies such as effective listening and structured spaces for reflection within the caring for the caregiver. That's our important pillar. And we, of course, we aim to create conditions where the team can sustain the emotional load of care. We look always after one another. We implement supportive interventions, always with professional guidance, and we also promote activities that help us to recharge social gatherings, for example, recreational moments, opportunities to connect outside the clinical environment, and early identification of emotional risk. And this has a direct impact of patients because when caregivers feel supported, they are no more present, more connected, and they feel like to provide higher quality care. That's why a system that care for its caregiver is a system that provides better care for its patients.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much, Dr. Luis Moya. And Tere, at the end of this podcast, what do you think caring for those who care means?
Thanks, Lore. I think, caring for ourselves, as well as creating a strong sense of community, support, and respect within our multidisciplinary team is essential to our ability to care for our patients, both physically, cognitively, and emotionally.
And Daniel, after hearing everything that your program CRECEP do you think CRECEP program has improved the well-being in your center?
Yes, of course. The well-being is focused mostly to feel understood and also just to feel heard, because we have to remember the most important thing in CRECEP here is that caring for the caregiver. And in order to care, we have to communicate, we have to think, we have to give a lot of introspective thoughts that help us to contribute about the outcomes of the pediatrics. It's very important to communicate and to feel understood.
Okay. Today we have a great minutes of hearing our colleagues, and we can see that caring for caregivers is not a single action, it's a culture. And from programs like RECEP, as shared by Daniel, to debriefings and group support sessions highlighted by Tere, and to safe spaces for reflection, education, simulation, and spiritual support as described by Dr. Luis, every effort remains us of one single truth. When we care for those who care, we heal not only our teams, but also the children and the families who depend on us. Thank you so much. And this was the experiences that Latin America want to share with the whole world. Thank you.